Situated on the southeast coast of the Baltic Sea between Lithuania and Poland is a piece of Russian territory known as Kaliningrad. Its location provides Russia with year-round ice-free access to the Baltic Sea, which is not only strategically important for Russia economically, but also militarily. This exclave spans an area of 15,000 square kilometers and has a population of roughly 1 million. The fact that the area is Russian territory and thus home to Russia's Baltic Fleet and 11th Army Corps makes it a notable vulnerability to NATO security. We look at why this is, as well as the military units based in Kaliningrad for today's video. According to the US Naval Institute, or USNI, Kaliningrad Oblast is sometimes described as the Kremlin's quote-unquote unsinkable aircraft carrier in the Baltic Sea. Not only is the Russian Baltic Fleet's main base located at the port of Baltic, but Russia has installed tactical Iskander missiles within this area. These missiles have a range of 500 kilometers, putting parts of Germany, Denmark, Sweden and Finland within reach. The USNI notes that in May 2022, Moscow carried out simulated nuclear missile strikes from Kaliningrad. This demonstrated that Russia could quickly level a number of European capitals. It makes sense from a strategic perspective that in the event of a conflict, Russia would cut off the Suwalki Gap, not just to deny support to the Baltics, but to connect Kaliningrad to Belarus in order to support its own operations. The USNI article that we've referenced a few times now states that this deterrence tactic, known as anti-access/area denial, or A2/AD, presumes the best way to prevail over an adversary is to prevent it from deploying its forces in the theater of operations. Thus, Kaliningrad's ability to do this through the use of artillery, land and sea-based missiles and anti-aircraft weapons would impact NATO's ability to support its Baltic allies. But of course, that's only looking at things one way, because on the other hand, Kaliningrad Oblast is bordered by Lithuania and the sizable military force that is Poland. Meanwhile, other NATO maritime forces would be expected to join the fight, and so if the Suwalki Gap is somehow cut off, there's some expectation that it wouldn't be cut off for too long. For now, we are somewhat in a Cold War state, with both sides being on high alert and preparing for the worst. And so this leads us to the second half of our video. What type of forces are known to be based in Kaliningrad Oblast? Well, starting with the Navy, we have Russia's Baltic Fleet. Admittedly, we tried to find official sources for the most accurate information, but were unable to access Russian websites, even with a VPN. Well, maybe it's for the best in terms of security. Unfortunately, this did leave us with russianships.info as our only source. Updated in May 2025, let's go with that. It states that the Russian Baltic Fleet consists of 1 attack submarine and 53 warships. Of those 53 warships, we have 1 destroyer, 2 frigates, 4 corvettes, 10 guided missile corvettes, 6 small ASW or anti-submarine warfare ships, 4 guided missile boats, 2 seagoing minesweepers, 3 base minesweepers, 5 inshore minesweepers, 4 landing ships, 2 small landing ships, and 10 landing craft. One source we found stated that, at least in 2021, the Baltic Fleet was the runt of the 4 main fleets in the Russian Navy and has historically suffered from low readiness, poor attention to infrastructure investment, and dated kit. However, this has probably changed a lot since 2022. Of course, not all of the Baltic Fleet's ships are built the same, and some are much larger than others, packing some serious firepower. However, it's clearly no contest when compared to the navy of neighboring Lithuania. Poland's navy is a little more capable, but these 2 NATO members would most certainly be relying on allies if a maritime conflict breaks out. When it comes to land forces, the blog site Russian Military Analysis says that Kaliningrad began seeing modernization, infrastructure investment, and a slow force structure expansion after 2016, after years of neglect. The website adds that Russian ground forces converted many of their brigades back into divisions as the main tactical formation. Data from Wikipedia states the following combat units comprising the 11th Army Corps: First, there's the 18th Guards Motor Rifle Division, which itself consists of the 79th, 275th, and 280th Motor Rifle Regiments. The division also includes the 11th Tank Regiment, which relies on the T-72B main battle tank. There's also the 22nd Independent Guards Anti-Aircraft Missile Regiment and the 20th Reconnaissance Battalion. Outside of the 18th Guards Motor Rifle Division is the 244th Artillery Brigade and the 152nd Guards Rocket Brigade. The former uses the BM-27 Uragan multiple rocket launcher and 2A-36 Hyacinth B towed field gun. Other combat units directly under the command of the 11th Army Corps include the 7th Independent Guards Motor Rifle Regiment and the 22nd Independent Guards Air Defense Regiment. Some sources note a 27th Coastal Missile Brigade and 46th Independent Reconnaissance Battalion, while others don't. This graphic, said to be prepared by defense analyst Konrad Muzyka, gives us another visual summary of Russian forces in Kaliningrad Oblast, at least as of 2020. Using a mix of sources including Janes, CNA.org, CSIS.org and a bit of Oryx, this is our best guess as to the current size and strength of Russian forces in Kaliningrad. It does not include the naval fleet, but does include naval infantry and special ops. You should also note that equipment holdings include S-400, Iskander-M, Bastion systems and upgraded T-72B3 tanks, and that naval assets are limited in scope, consisting mainly of small ships and support vessels. Air presence includes high-performance interceptors and tactical strike aircraft. The key takeaway is that troop strength has likely decreased due to redeployments to Ukraine and that around 6,000 to 10,000 may remain. Ultimately, numbers for Russian forces won't be 100% accurate given the current war in Ukraine, as assets have been deployed and some destroyed. Things are constantly changing. Coming from a Lithuanian public broadcaster article, the Lithuanian Minister of Defense at the time stated, "I'm telling Lithuanian people, look how the Ukrainians are fighting for us, because they have transferred troops from Kaliningrad. We are even calling this the demilitarization of Kaliningrad." But what are your thoughts on the Russian exclave of Kaliningrad, the non-Allied forces stationed there, and the risk that it poses? Let us know by leaving a comment.